Welcome to the Call to Meet Scotland podcast, where we bring you the latest insights from across the Scottish red meat sector, from the public body that works on its behalf. I'm Claire Taylor, your host for today's episode. Join us as we dive into market trends, brand communications and industry development projects in relation to Scotland's red meat sector, featuring experts, guests, farmers and stakeholders. Together, we'll explore the key facts and perspectives shaping our sector, keeping you informed and engaged with the ever-evolving landscape of the red meat industry. In this month's episode, we shine a spotlight on the QMS Summer Marketing Campaign, with Marketing Director Emma Heath sharing the vision behind the storytelling, and Scottish farmer Jennifer Struthers, one of its featured faces, reflects on her experience representing the industry. Together, they discuss the importance of authenticity in building consumer trust, how the "when you know" message is resonating with the public, and why showcasing the people behind Scotch beef, Scotch lamb and specially selected pork matters now more than ever. Kate Rowell joins us fresh from the trophy trailer at Peebles Show and shares some of the exciting travel she has planned in the coming months, with a trip to Brazil for the World Meat Congress a highlight in the calendar. Abby Tong joins me to share the latest insights on market trends and consumer behaviour, from rising beef prices to how shoppers are responding, and what this means for Scotland compared to the wider GB market. First up, I caught up with Kate Rowell. Welcome back to the podcast, Kate. Can you fill me in a little bit about what's been keeping you busy over a very sunny summer at your end?
Yeah, well, the QMS work for me isn't hugely busy during the summer because there's so much else going on that sometimes I don't have the time. But I have been doing a lot at home, obviously, on the farm. We've been clipping, we've been making silage, we've been spinning lambs, we've been doing all sorts of things at home. And just recently I've been working away at Peebles Show, which was just the other weekend, and I'm really quite involved in that at home as well. So it's been busy at home. But on a QMS front, the biggest thing that we've been doing really is recruiting for new board members. So that's now closed. The applications have closed, but we have had a really good range of applicants.
Amazing. And obviously we're speaking, that's closed. You've still got to obviously interview. So by the time this comes out, we'll know a lot more about what's happened. But even just to fill in a little bit about what were you looking for in applications and what's the demand been like for that?
Yeah, so it's really, really well laid out what we have to do. Because we're an NDPB, we have to do this through the government public appointment system, and they have a really strong process for doing it. And the first thing you have to do is look at your existing board and see where the skills gaps are. So it's really important for QMS that we're represented on the board right across the supply chain. So everybody from farmers right through to butchers, you know, we want skills from all those different places. So when we looked at the skills that we would be missing with the board members that are stepping down, the three or the four really key skills that we are looking for are experience in the pig sector, experience in the sheep sector, experience in the red meat processing sector, and then we are also looking for someone who's good at audit and risk, because our audit and risk chair is going to stand down next year. So those were the specific things that we were looking for this time round. But what I have been saying to people as well is that next year there will be another round. I think we'll be looking probably for another 4 people next year. And that will probably be much more broad, because we might not have, we hopefully won't have the same gaps. And so it might be a more broad range of knowledge that we're looking for. But we've had a good lot of applicants, so we're really, really pleased. And it'll be exciting to go through them and see who we can get eventually appointed onto the board.
It'll be interesting a bit later on. We'll be able to get an update of who's been appointed and obviously fitting those specifications that you were looking for, Kate. You've said that you've maybe not been as busy with QMS recently. You've been incredibly busy on your own farm, and obviously with you and I were just talking about the trophy trailer at Peebles Show, but you are about to enter into an incredibly busy time with QMS. You've got a few events in the calendar, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming up quite soon is an event that Scotland Food and Drink organise at Dover House, which is down in Whitehall, and they take a lot of lots and lots, dozens of Scottish food and drink businesses down there, and we go down obviously to represent the red meat sector. We have displays and samplings. We always have some lovely little canopies with Scotch beef and Scotch lamb on them. And you get a lot of MPs, their officials, you get ambassadors, you get wholesalers coming around. And it's just a really, really good way of showcasing what we can do in Scotland and what the benefits would be of having, if you're an ambassador, having Scottish food and drink at your reception, or really for MPs to get across to them just how important the sector is and how, what part we play in Scotland's economy. So that's coming up. I'm on the Trade and Agriculture Commission, which is a UK government body which looks at free trade agreements. So the India deal has just been announced, and we are currently looking into the minutiae of that. So I think there's a call out for any concerns to be raised. Anybody can raise any concerns with this deal, and then we will look at them. The ones that have come up so far aren't red meat related. They are things like prawns and rice. But it's really, really interesting just to see lots of other different food products and what people's concerns are. And it might well be that there are red meat ones that are raised with us, so we'll be looking into that. We've literally only just started, so I don't have a huge amount of detail on that. And then later on, getting into the autumn, we've got our big trade show at Anuga in Cologne, which I'll be going out to, and we'll be taking processors out there to talk about exports. And then just after that, I'm heading off to Brazil for, I think it's 5 days, for the World Meat Congress, where everybody from the red meat sector goes. I've only been to one before because previously they were cancelled by COVID. So this is it really getting back up to full strength, and everybody who produces red meat in the world will be there. South America, USA, Australia, New Zealand, everybody from Europe. It's a huge event, and it's so important to make connections, because although all of these countries are our competitors at one level, we also have to work together at another level, because for things like health, we need to present a united front on how red meat is good for you. So that's the sort of thing that we would work together quite closely on, but it'll be really, really interesting.
That's so fascinating. I mean, your work with the Trade and Agriculture Commission and getting those insights on different products and perspectives, and then to be heading out to South America, and obviously a couple of weeks ahead of COP30, where there'll be a lot of conversations, particularly around beef, I imagine, happening over there. I've seen some of the early panels that have been taking place. And I guess, having a wonderful trip when you're over there, Kate. I'd love to get you back on the podcast to hear what you've been up to, but that's quite a few things that are in the calendar. Oh, before you go, I do want to mention Meet the Market workshops. I know these take place throughout the calendar for QMS, an amazing opportunity to get behind the scenes and see what's happening in processing, to look at grading and specification. And I mean, what's on offer with this programme, and how can people get involved, Kate?
Yeah, we do run these, and the only problem with them is that they are small numbers, because you can't take 300 people around a processor. You can only take 10 or 12, because there's just not much room. But they are so valuable in really understanding what processors are looking for. If that's the market you're going for, it's really important to understand exactly what they're looking for and see what happens behind the scenes, because as farmers, you look at the product on the shelf and you maybe don't all know all the steps that go into getting it from the animal that you send off to that product on the shelf. And there is a lot of work involved there and a lot of expertise. And it's really, really interesting to go around them. And the one thing I always say to people, I remember when we were monitor farmers, there was a big push to get cattle to be a bit smaller. The FDA was saying they're too heavy. But nobody was really explaining why. They were just saying the processors want them smaller. And of course, being farmers, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about, maybe they're trying to screw more money out of us, whatever. Nobody really understood anyway. And then we went, as a board, I was just a board member then, we went on a trip round a secondary processing plant, and they had a machine that you put a whole sirloin into, and it shaped it and then blast froze it and then chopped it. So when the steaks came out at the other end, they all looked the same, because that's what people in the supermarket want. And suddenly, a light bulb went off in my head. That's the reason. If the sirloin's too big, it doesn't fit in the machine. There was no conspiracy theory. There was a real reason why they wanted a certain size. And if that's the market as a farmer that you're working towards, then you need to know that information. And once it makes sense, you're quite happy to work to that. It's just having it explained. So Meet the Market is really good at explaining things like that. And we do run them. We don't run them frequently, but we do run them regularly. So whenever you see one come up, if you're interested, get on there as soon as you can and get your name down, and hopefully we'll get you on one sooner rather than later.
Oh, it just sounds amazing. I've been very lucky to be going quite a few tours myself in different countries, and even what you've said there, understanding even what the retailers are thinking, going through the boning halls and just seeing how these products are coming out, and it just that connection that often we don't have to that whole process from paddock to plate. It's just such a powerful thing to have that. So yeah, it sounds like a great thing that you're running. But thank you so much, Kate. Great to speak to you and catch up, and look forward to catching up with you soon on the episode.
Thanks very much.
Next up, QMS category specialist Abby Tong zones in on how shoppers have responded to higher beef prices and how the wider protein market is performing in comparison. Welcome back to the podcast, Abby. Can you start by giving us a little bit of an update or Snapchat? Excuse me, not bloody Snapchat. We don't need that. I'll go again. Welcome back to the podcast, Abby. Can you start by giving us a snapshot of what's happening in the beef market right now?
Yeah, I think recently we have been like really hot topic of what we talking about the food price inflation, right? In July time, we have seen the food price inflation has been hit around 4% actually. So one of the most hardest hit category, probably the meat category. And we were talking really often about the beef price inflation. So, and this is this is a topic we're going to talk about today. And as you may already know, we have seen the Scottish prime cattle price rose significantly in 2025 this year, and it has peaked around 720 p per kilo in May time, and with that price, and that is around 50% above last year's level and 65% above the 5-year average. So you could imagine and how much price has been rising in the supply side. So that has made a big impact on the beef market. And so I think probably the reason behind that, and we could talk about the shortage in supply cannot simply meet the rising demand. That is kind of a global issue. So that's currently what happened in the beef, the retail, in the farm gate side and the supply side. The prices has been rising significantly.
Those are some really incredible figures that you just shared, Abby. I mean, that's 720 pence per kilo, and you've said a little bit about what's driving that increase. But what's been the impact on the retail prices as a result of that?
Yeah, definitely. And of course, and if there is a supply issues and we got so much farm gate prices has been rising so massively, and of course have an impact on beef retail prices. So according to World Panel by Numerator, we have seen the beef prices rose by nearly 9% in May time. So therefore, we have seen this kind of impact. So we, QMS and AHGB, we together has done a research with World Panel by Numerator. We have just want to dig into what consumers' reaction and when we face this rising beef price inflation. So we have a lot of interesting findings today. So I just want to share some of the key findings with you. Yeah.
So what are consumers doing as a reaction to this? What changes in buying behavior are you experiencing, Abby? Are you finding out?
Yeah. And first of all, I think just in the research we have found that the retail beef prices rose by 9% in May time in a 12-week period, and that has caused the beef volume sales to tip into decline, and it's a decline by 2.5%. That's leading to a loss nearly 3,300 tons in the 12-week period compared to last year. So this quite a lot like volume loss. So if you come we have to a bit deep dive into what consumer behavior has caused this volume loss, and there are basically three primary reasons cause that. The first one is we have found out shoppers buying less types of beef cuts. Let's give an example. For example, some shoppers, they previously buy beef mince, beef roast, and beef steak. But nowadays, because of the beef price inflation, they probably cut off beef roasts. And the second reason, the second cause is so we have seen the shoppers buying less volume of the same cuts. For example, and we have seen some consumers, they buy like 4 steaks per month, but nowadays and try to mitigate the impact that they buy 3 steaks per month, something like that. And all as the last behavior we have found out is some shoppers, they have stopped buying beef. We have a bit of a deep dive into the people stopped buying beef, and we found out those who stopped buying beef, they have switched to, for example, pork sausages and also gammon roasting joints, or even some chicken products like chicken breast and thighs and the wings, etc. So all and all of this is consumers behave what consumers do try to mitigate the impact of beef inflation. And some others, one other option they chose to use is to buying cheaper options. For example, some shoppers, they used to buy 5% fat mince, but nowadays they buy like 20% fat mince, which has a bit cheaper. So in that way, they could just save some money. So this is the kind of the shopper behaviors that we have found out behind rising beef inflation. Quite interesting.
Oh, so interesting. I guess that's probably unsurprising hearing that they're trading down to those cheaper cuts, or like you say, Abby, they're actually switching proteins altogether. And actually, we'll get on to that a little bit later. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, you've been obviously looking at the data on this, and Scotland seems to be showing a little bit more resilience compared to the rest of Great Britain. What's behind that?
Yeah, and first of all, we need to understand is according to the data from World Panel by Numerator, we have seen the beef price inflation in Scotland, and for the most recent 12-week ending 13th of July, we have seen the beef price inflation has reached around 70%, and therefore we have seen the volume has lost about 2.4%. But if you compare with the total GB level, we have seen a similar level of beef price inflation, and a bit higher, we should say, it's 18.7% price inflation in GB level. But compare that, they have a reduction in beef volume around 11%. So that's a huge loss of beef volume. So this means even we have a similar level of the price inflation, but still in Scotland, our shoppers are more resilient in beef consumption. Giving an example, for example, despite we have inflation level of 20% in beef mince in Scotland, but we still see, surprisingly, we have a volume increased by 1.5%. So you see and how resilient in Scotland.
And let's zoom out to the wider protein market. You've touched on it already. I think you said that switch to pork sausages is one of the examples you gave. If we look at lamb, pork, chicken, how are these categories comparing to beef? What are the sort of trends you're seeing in those markets?
Yeah, and according to data and from the World Panel by Numerator, we have seen in Scotland, lamb, even though this continues to be the most expensive protein, but however, and its inflation level is much lower than we have seen in the beef sector. Its inflation level is around 3.8%, significantly lower. So we have seen a volume increase of lamb in Scotland around 2.8%. Especially we have seen a 10% volume increase for lamb steak, and obviously we see because lamb steak is kind of popular, especially during the summertime, and we have this summertime is so good. We have so many sunny days compared to last year. So it's a lot of outdoor activities, a lot of like barbecue occasions which have driving these lamb cuts volumes up. And also for the podcast, of course, and podcasts in Scotland, we have seen the price inflation level significantly lower. We have seen 1.7% only price inflation level for pork in Scotland. So therefore, we have seen a volume increase of around 4% compared to last year. So, and obviously, and that's easy to understand because pork is like more affordable cuts across the 3 different red meat cuts. So that's why we have seen the pork has been really popular. Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting. Just what a contrast between those figures of lamb and pork compared to what you're seeing of beef. And I imagine is it a similar thing that you're seeing for chicken as well, Abby?
Yeah, definitely, because previously I have mentioned some of the shoppers when they stop buying beef and they've switched to chicken cuts and, for example, the chicken breast and the chicken wings, chicken thighs, because the price is much lower than beef sector. And definitely we have seen an increase of increased level of consumption in chicken and poultry. Yeah.
Oh, Abby, thanks so much for all your insights. And there's so many figures for listeners to get their head around. It's just absolutely fascinating because often we do hear the market side, but hearing the consumer figures and what's happening on the retail shelves, it's really interesting to get that wider perspective. And I guess just to sort of close with you, I guess I'd ask what your outlook is for the rest of the year. Do you expect these trends to continue, or will we see some easing in price pressures and consumer behaviours? What's your outlook?
According to the data, we have seen actually the food price inflation and the total food price inflation is expected to be reached around 5.5% at the end of this year. So we will still see the total food price inflation rising. So it will definitely have a huge impact on shoppers' purchase choices. Definitely, we will continue to see shoppers shopping around in different shops and just compare prices, going to purchase different stuffs in different retailers according to their promotion activities and the prices. And so all these activities we will continue to see that because of the pressure, price pressure, and so therefore I just want to give some of my advice. And first, for the food producers and retailers, for example, I just want them to continue to offer a wide selections of red meat products across the different price tiers to our consumers. So it could ensure red meat is still in shoppers' baskets. That's very key for the shoppers nowadays, and also for the retailers, and just to make the best use of seasonal events that consumers would protect. For example, the Christmas time and also the Easter time. These are the key events our consumer will protect. They won't they will buy cheaper options, but still they won't drop at all. They will still continue to buy them. And another advice is probably for our shoppers. I just encourage them to keep red meat in their routine meals, because red meat, it could provide essential nutrients for either the shopper yourself and your family. I just want them to stay alert and shop smart, because there are so many promotion activities and also so many offers outside in the market. If you plan ahead and wisely, and you will definitely keep your family happy and healthy.
Amazing, Abby, and it's actually a lovely, tee-way into our next conversation. We've got Emma and Jennifer coming on the podcast talking about the summer campaign, talking about looking for those Scotch labels and the farming stories behind that, and really, celebrating and supporting those red meat brands. And I think that advice to the retailer side of things on the diversity of offering the different tiers and really abiding by the seasonal calendar, I think that's great advice. And I look forward to our next chat, Abby. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Joining us to discuss the QMS Summer Marketing campaign is Emma Heath, who developed the concept and takes us behind the scenes, and farmer Jennifer Struthers, a star of the screen, who shares why putting real farmers at the heart of the story matters. Welcome, Emma and Jennifer, to the QMS podcast. We're going to be spotlighting the summer marketing campaign. Emma, looking forward to hearing from you a bit about the behind the scenes, creation, the impact. And Jennifer, you're one of the faces of the campaign and keen to hear about your involvement and what it's meant to represent industry. But can we begin by doing some introductions? Emma, I'll come to you first.
Hi, I'm Emma Heath. I'm the marketing director here at Quality Meats Scotland, and I'm about to celebrate my 2nd year anniversary here in October.
And Jennifer, yourself?
Yes, I'm Jennifer Struthers. I live on a beef and sheep farm just outside between Lanark and Curluck. Working on the farm with my husband, but also working for SAC Consulting, and got 2 small children too, so keeping me busy.
And Emma, I'll come back to you. Can we talk a little bit about the campaign, set the scene for it? What's been the real purpose behind it?
So this is, I think it must be either phase 4 or phase 5 of our When You Know campaign, which was born almost exactly a year ago. We decided as a marketing team that we had a great opportunity to tell the story of Scotch in a more, I guess, emotionally connecting way. And I think, one of the things that we have in terms of our superpowers are the incredible people from across the whole of the red meat supply chain, the amazing from, farmers and crofters through to, hauliers, auction marts, and then right through the supply chain to kind of processors and butchers. We've got so many people, real people with real stories to tell, and obviously a really, really strong provenance message. And one of the other kind of major pillars, I guess, of the campaign itself is the standards, the amazing, robust quality assurance standards that underpin everything that we do here at Quality Meats Scotland, which actually celebrate their 35th year on September the 10th. There was a real opportunity to kind of bring all of those things to life in a way that kind of drove an emotional connection with consumers to really try and help them understand what the Scotch difference is. So the campaign itself was born, as I said, a year ago, and we had the opportunity to work with a new marketing agency called Multiply. And the When You Know campaign was born out of a really strange conversation with the founder, Mark Falston, and his wife, who he was telling her that they were pitching for our business, and she was, I guess, struggling a little bit to understand exactly, what he was doing. And he explained that meat that carries the Scotch label, so Scotch beef, Scotch lamb and specially selected pork, is only ever born and reared in Scotland on quality assured farms. It spends its whole life there, it's slaughtered in Scotland. So it's that whole of life, whole of supply chain assurance. And she had a kind of penny drop moment, and she was like, right, so when you've got a choice and you see 2 types of meat in the shop and one's got the Scotch logo and one hasn't, like, when you know what you've just said, why would you choose anything else? Because when you know. So that's where the whole campaign idea has come from. So the TV ad that we filmed and aired for the first time last September brought together people from across the whole of the supply chain, starting with the amazing livestock on one of our monitor farms down near Loch Lomond, right through to meeting butchers and chefs and seeing families enjoying Scotch meat. So that's where the idea came from. And essentially, this work that we've been doing over the summer really just takes the campaign to the next level, and bringing in more real life contributors, which is where the link with Jennifer and John ultimately came from, and just bringing to life what they do on a daily basis on their farm with their family, and really showcasing the best of what farmers like Jennifer and John do every single day.
And Emma, before I bring in Jennifer, just for those who may or may not have actually seen the campaign, what media channels has this gone out on? What's been the real target and platform here?
Yeah, so every time that we've evolved the campaign, we've tried to do something a little bit different. So with all of the campaigns that we've been running, we try to hit a minimum of 70% of all Scottish adults, and this campaign is no exception to that. So the campaign this time had a mix of television, STV, STV Player, which is the broadcaster VOD. It's had digital, paid social. It's had some radio activity as well. And the part of the campaign that Jennifer and John have been involved in is what we call an STV brand story. So it's a new format that we trialled back in January using Aberdeen-based nutritionist Scott Bapty. And it really seemed to resonate with consumers because it's just showing real people doing real things and showing things that are relevant to them. So when we had the idea to actually go down and spend a day on a farm, it just seemed like a really brilliant opportunity to just tell something exactly as it is. So the brand story has run for a few weeks throughout the schedule, and it's actually going to be back on air in September as well for the STV Sustainability Week. We thought it'd be a really nice kind of story to bring back again then too. So it's had a pretty decent share of airtime over the campaign.
Amazing. And I'll come back to you shortly, Emma, to hear a bit about the feedback. But I'll bring in Jennifer here. Jennifer, you've been the face, I said at the top of the introduction, of the campaign. Why did you get involved? What's it been like being part of this experience?
Yeah, we just sort of, everyone asks us, how come you got picked? But my friend Ailey works for QMS, and Ailey messaged me one day and said, I don't suppose you want to be on this advert. And I said, well, I don't know, Ailey, put my name forward if you like. And I said, it might be silly of me to assume that there was multiple names on the list, and then I'm not so sure there maybe was. So we said we would try and do it, and I think part of that was, I feel like that farmers are quite guilty of saying, oh, what are we doing? What are QMS doing to promote us? I thought, well, we need to be involved with it too. We can't just, it's for us, for our benefit ultimately. So we sort of agreed. The team came out for a recce, and again, at that point, I still sort of thought, they'll be going to recce numerous places, and they might not, and it was the most glorious day, and Greenbank has views. If nothing else, Greenbank has amazing views, and it couldn't have been any better, and everyone was just like, yeah, we have to do it. We have to do it here. So at that point, I think we're like, yeah, we're definitely on this. And I'd also forgotten I had connections with, obviously went to Young Farmers with Sarah Miller, and I had previously facilitated a monitor farm with Kate Rowell. So Emma came out the car and went, oh yeah, loads of people at QMS know, you've come recommended, and I'm like, oh damn it.
It sounds like you had a target on you from the start, Jennifer.
I think so. But no, it was really good. It was a really good experience, and it was nice to do, and it was good to feel like we're doing something as well for the promotion.
And Jennifer, Emma was saying how important it's been for them to have real faces behind these campaigns, and how important do you think that is around visibility for farming and really building trust with the public and seeing farmers actually delivering these messages?
Yeah, no, I think it is really important, and I think there's probably a bit of stereotype about farmers and what farmers look like and who farmers are, and I think it is quite nice to show different faces and show that we're not all the same, and there are a wide range of people doing what we're doing, and I think it is, people are so disconnected from farming, so the more we can show the variability of real farmers across the industry, I think it can only be a good thing.
And I think just now as well, with imports, meat from other countries hitting the shelves as well, creating a sort of real understanding and connection with Scottish farmers is more important than ever, because if they can see, members of the public can see the kind of people that are involved in producing the amazing meat that we're lucky to have in this country here in Scotland, it just does another job for promoting that homegrown, home-reared is absolutely the best.
And Emma, what is the feedback been so far from? It's been sort of 5 weeks the campaign's been running. You've got another run at it in September. What has been the early feedback so far?
It's been really great, Claire, to be honest. I think we've been so lucky that from last year when the campaign started, we took some baseline measures back in January 2024 of all what we call key brand health measures. So things like brands that are relevant to me, that they're I recognise them, they're available where I shop. We have about 15 different brand metrics, and all of them have seen some really, really positive kind of brand metrics, particularly around things like better welfare, healthy and great for my diet, whole of life quality assured, but brand recognition has really spiked as well and is at an all-time high, which is fantastic. But I think probably the best piece of feedback that I got, which I actually felt a little bit emotional about, to be honest, was, I often joke with Sarah Miller, who's our CEO, and say, I often feel that I don't have one boss, I have kind of, thousands and thousands of bosses, because all our sort of members and levy payers, it's really important that we deliver activity that kind of works for them, but is also a really good use of funds, that we're not kind of frivolously doing kind of things. These are all, ads that have been made on a really tight budget, and kind of, film once, use many. But one of our colleagues, Gordon Newlands, had a message from somebody in the supply chain that said, finally, QMS have given us the campaign that we deserve. And that actually just brought a little like lump to my throat and a tear to my eye, because I thought, it's not just consumers that are getting it. The industry clearly appreciate it as well. So the feedback's been really good. And I think, as a marketeer, it's all very well that, things look great and, people like them, but we're really starting to see that they're effective. And ultimately, that's the proof of the pudding, is that your campaigns are effective. And I think, it's kind of quite hard for us in some ways, because, I've spent my entire life working on brands, which, as I often say, are brands that I could pick off a production line and put in the boot of my car. We can't do that with Scotch beef and Scotch lamb, because QMS aren't the producer. So we're obviously responsible for, across the whole supply chain, ensuring that, everything's done properly, that the standards are upheld, and, getting consumers to buy the brands. That's the key job of my team. So, because we don't produce anything, we can't measure things that normal brands measure. So those kind of brand metrics that I talked about, seeing such positive and impressive shifts in all of those is incredibly pleasing to see. It kind of makes everything worthwhile.
Oh, that's wonderful feedback to have had. And I think that line about the campaign we deserve, I can see why that was very emotional, Emma. Yeah. And Jennifer, I'm going to throw the same question to you. What feedback have you had, whether it's family, friends, neighbours, consumers? What have people been saying to your involvement?
Yeah, it's been really weird. So I think we obviously known for ages we were going to be in it, and then we told a few people around it, but we hadn't really told everybody. And then it was obviously in the Scottish Farmer, and people had kind of seen it, but we'd kind of not forgotten we'd been in it, because we don't necessarily watch a lot of TV, so we hadn't maybe been seeing it that much. And then we went to a wedding, which was a large farmer wedding, and we were like, oh, we forgot we were on the telly, because everybody had seen it and everybody had something to say, but it was all really nice comments. And I think farmers are really critical, and the people, close friends and things, I know they would be critical if there was something to be critical of. They weren't just probably being polite, because I know them. If there was something they were going to criticise, they would have told me. So I think there has been really nice comments about it, about how it came across. So I think that was probably the concern that we had, that because farmers are blunt and would have just told
so
you if
true.
they didn't like it. So no, we were really pleased with the comments we've had about it. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's great. You've had good feedback. You are right. The first people to criticise would have been the ones closest to you. We hear that all the time in agriculture.
There are the thing is, they've definitely become a catchphrase, and sometimes people have just had people phone me at work and be like, oh, when you know. So.
And Jennifer, when filming happened, was there any key messages that you were really passionate about conveying, or even a sort of an idea that you wanted to portray across the people watching? What was really front of mind for you?
Yeah, I think it's just a bit that farmers just get a bad rap all the time, and I think it was just to make sure that we were coming across it. There was a lot of how it worked was I can't remember his name from STV. Kenny from STV. Kenny from STV sat us down and sort of interviewed us with obviously a bit of a brief from QMS, but everything was our words, and I suppose there was questions about welfare, and he, from not being from a farm, the way was sort of, I don't mean it was odd, but he was kind of coming at it at a slightly different angle. And my main thing was, animal welfare is everything we do, but we don't set out in a day to say, I'm going to do really high animal welfare today, and I think that's the thing that's getting it across, that actually it's just everything, and I think it was those kind of things that we're trying to just maybe be sure that we got across, that it's just what we do. We're working to those standards, and they are high standards, but it's just part of every day. It's not like we're making this monumental effort to meet the standards because we want to get to that high standard, because we want to be producing the best. So I suppose that was kind of what we were trying to maybe make sure we were undoing some of the bad rap that farmers get.
And I guess that is part of the thing.
There was something lovely, Jennifer, that you said.
Oh, sorry, Emma?
Sorry, Claire, I was going to say there's something lovely that you said, Jennifer, when I think it was in one of the pieces that we're writing for some of the press that we're doing around this as well. And I think what you said, Jennifer, was something like, we look after the animals, and they look after us. There was something really nice in that kind of
Yeah,
thing. It's like a
and that
two-way thing.
and that's what all farmers are doing. You know, nobody is setting out to do anything else because, you know, it's their livelihood, and if you don't look after your animals, it's pointless. So, you know, everyone's setting out to do that, but I think it's obviously the outliers and the bad stories that make the press. So I think it was just to make sure that, I suppose, normalise that is what we're doing every day.
It's funny, Jennifer, I remember when I was a journalist at the Scottish Farmer and out with the Scottish Farmer, often farmers would be sitting on stories that were so powerful, but because it's their norm and it's their daily life. But when you're trying to connect with, especially through these Scotch brands and trying to connect with customers, you do need to reiterate and explain. And actually, you being part of that experience and showcasing that, hopefully it gives other farmers the confidence to do that, because we can be quite shy of speaking to the media and sharing what's doing. When you just made a really good point there that often it is only the bad stories. Do you think it might encourage other farmers to jump on board and do what you've done?
Yeah, I would hope it would, and we would always, like, you know, it's a really positive experience for us. It was, you know, it was time out of our day, but it wasn't, you know, it was enjoyable, and I would encourage anybody else to do it. It wasn't, it was good. It was good fun, and I think it is, and I would say that anyway, you know, and that's probably part of my belief in what you're saying is probably what drove us to say yes, was the fact that we are really bad at just, because you say it is so normal, and because we socialise in farming circles, we're not, and then when you come across somebody that's not from farming, it only then maybe clicks that the people, they don't know some of these things, and it's the really basic things. And actually, the more we can say that, and the more we've got maybe the words or the tools to say it, to know that it's important to say, then I think it's definitely worthwhile, and more people should make the effort.
And Jennifer, you said something earlier I thought was really important around the stereotype often of farmers. And I think that sounds like it was quite an important thing to you, and to actually showcase the diversity of what people might traditionally associate, and to have, I know Angus was part of the campaign as well. Was that quite important to you, to show like the next generation coming in and those conversations?
Yeah, no, I think it was, and I think there is that sort of stereotype that farmers are, you know, old white men, you know, and that's not as true as it once was. But yeah, having Angus in it, and he's so, none of that was forced, you know, that is, Angus just wants to be in about it all the time. And not because we're not putting massive pressure on him, it's just, you can just tell that it's bred in him, that he wants to be involved with farming.
Well, he signed up to be a future star of other campaigns. I'm quite sure he's already got that marked for him. So.
He was a total superstar. I think he was probably genuinely the star of the show. And I think, you know, when the crew all arrived in the morning, you could see he was a little bit apprehensive. By the end of it, he was like literally hanging out with the camera crew and just absolutely living his best life. But Jennifer, you told us a really funny story as well, that because you told the nursery ladies that he wasn't coming in, and hadn't he said something like, yeah, I'm not going to be in tomorrow, and you said, tell the ladies why you're not coming in. He's like, because I'm going to be on the actual telly. And he was just like completely dining out on this story. Yeah, it was so cute. He was brilliant. He was such good fun to be around, and
it was really nice because all the nursery staff, and again, people, you know, I think there's a thing about like QMS in particular, like the adverts aren't targeted at farmers, so sometimes we don't see them, and if the nursery staff had ever seen a QMS advert before, they weren't going to be telling me whether they liked it or not. But it was quite nice to hear people who were totally out with the industry go, it was a really good advert, you know, it looked really, like, so that kind of feedback was nice as well.
And Emma, what's next for QMS? Obviously, it'll be leading up to Christmas. Like, what's the next direction this is all going to be taking?
Yeah, so we tend to work on kind of, you know, big seasonal bursts at QMS with our marketing, and because we tend to buy kind of prime time TV spots, they're generally the backbone of most of our campaigns to try and get the message out to as many people as we can. So the summer campaign finishes just the kind of third week in August, then we've got a couple of weeks off. And we're back on again with a kind of September media plan, which will run through till kind of mid to end of October, sort of focusing on more of the same kind of thing. And then the kind of, you know, run up to Christmas is really important, obviously, for the red meat industry. It's a great opportunity for people to showcase amazing meat as part of their festive plans. So we've got a heavyweight TV plan, again, like we had last year, which focuses on not only kind of normal ads using the Christmas ads that we had from last year, but also some channel sponsorship, which we're just in the process of finalising just now. So yeah, that's a kind of big run which will run up until kind of just after Boxing Day. Then we're off air for a couple of weeks and then back on for our kind of quarter 4, as we call it, which is the kind of quarter where we talk about health and well-being, and we talk about positive conversations around red meat. So we're literally just in the process of pulling that final quarter 4 activity together. But again, we expect that to be, a really decent weight because we've got so many great stories to tell. It's important that we tell it in ways that reaches plenty of people.
And maybe you'll be able to bring Jennifer and you can start tagging other individuals that and putting them into the future campaigns and putting them forward, Jennifer.
No, I do think I would be more than complimentary about the whole process to anybody that wanted to do it. I would recommend it to anybody. So if anybody feels that they should be doing it, they can. Yeah, I wouldn't say anything bad about it at all.
Well, I guess just to finish, and thanks so much for sharing about a bit of behind the scenes and what's been happening in some of your stories from Angus. I'm sure people just love hearing what it's been like for both of you. But I guess I'm just going to finish by asking you, and I'll come to you first, Jennifer, and then Emma, but what has been, I guess, most rewarding about taking part in this experience, and what have you really taken away from it? Jennifer, I'll come to you first.
I think it has just been it's been really good feedback, and I think, as I say, from farming friends and people like with, and even just my mum's been mentioning to everybody, obviously, and her optician was like, oh, I did see that advert. That's like, it's nice to see that, and it's nice to just be seen to be being part of it and not just sitting back and thinking, who's advertising this for us? It's our product at the end of the day. So I think that's been really good to be involved in it, and it was really, really interesting to see what goes on behind the scenes of making an advert, and the process and the the time and the people that are all involved in it, and it probably makes me look at everything on TV slightly differently from what I did before.
Amazing. And yourself, Emma?
I think for me, what makes my job worthwhile, particularly compared to other brands that I've worked on over the years, is this is really about doing it for the whole of the supply chain. This is about real people doing an incredible job every single day to make sure that the meat that they produce is to some of the highest standards in the world, and that makes me really proud. I think Scotch beef, Scotch lamb, specially selected pork, we almost take it for granted because we're eating this kind of amazing quality of meat all of the time, and I think we just need to make sure that the Scotch difference is understood by everybody, that they realise why it's better, and that where they have a choice, that's what they pick up when they're out doing their shopping.
Amazing. Well, what a lovely way to wrap it up and to finish. Thank you both so much for sharing your time, for obviously putting your creativity and personal touch into putting together this campaign. And it's so wonderful to have heard you've already had wonderful feedback. And like you say, it's nice to get it from both sides, giving feedback. And often we can sometimes have these kind of two worlds, but it sounds like it's really been an amazing connector. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us on the podcast.
Thanks.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quality Meat Scotland podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen for more monthly episodes as we continue to explore the vital topics affecting the red meat industry. If you want to stay updated with the latest news in our sector, be sure to sign up for the weekly QMS newsletter by emailing info@qmsscotland.co.uk. Join us next time for more insights from experts, farmers and industry leaders. But until then, stay connected with us on our social channels and keep up with the latest news from Quality Meat Scotland.